The wind was sharp and bitter as it whipped through the city streets, carrying with it the kind of chill that seemed to seep into your bones, no matter how many layers you wore. A bustling crowd moved through the city square, their hurried footsteps echoing off the pavement, heads down, eyes focused, lost in their own worlds. Amidst the busy crowd, a woman walked slowly, her worn boots clicking softly against the cobblestones. Her name was Clara, but no one ever called her by her name. She was simply the girl in the old jacket. The jacket that had once been a symbol of something powerful, something proud, but now it was just a ragged relic of a past that was slipping further into the shadows of forgotten history. Her jacket, a faded military issue, hung loosely on her thin frame. It had once been a proud insignia of a rank, but now it was just a scrap of fabric, patched and frayed at the edges, stained with the marks of years gone by. The patches were faded, the colors indistinct, but the shape of the eagle, the worn insignia of the once venerated regiment, could still be made out if you looked closely enough. Yet, most people didn't bother. They just saw the threadbare fabric and the girl with sad, tired eyes who wandered the streets like a ghost. A group of young women laughed as Clara passed by them. One of them, with a cruel smile, muttered under her breath, "Who even wears a jacket like that anymore? It's like she's living in the past." The others snickered. They didn't realize that Clara could hear them, that the words stung with the sharpness of 1,000 tiny daggers. Clara pulled the jacket tighter around her, trying to ignore the stares, trying to ignore the whispers. She wasn't the kind of person to fight back. She had long learned that silence was the best armor. But today, the weight of those words seemed to press down harder than usual. She had tried so many times to move on, to let go of the past, but it kept following her, like a shadow that wouldn't leave, no matter how much she wished it would. As she continued to walk, she couldn't shake the feeling that the world had forgotten her, just like they had forgotten the meaning of the jacket she wore. She reached the corner of the square and paused, leaning against the cold stone wall of a small cafe. Her fingers traced the edge of the faded patch on her jacket. A flash of memory surged through her. The day she had received it, the pride she had felt. She had once been part of something bigger, something that had mattered. But now the jacket seemed to weigh more than it ever had. "Excuse me, miss." A voice interrupted her thoughts. Clara looked up, startled. A man in his early 40s, with sharp features and a military posture, stood before her. He was tall, dressed in a crisp suit, his face serious, but there was something in his eyes, something that made her heart skip a beat. His gaze flickered to her jacket, and then back to her. "You wouldn't happen to be wearing that for sentimental reasons, would you?" he asked, his voice low, but steady. Clara frowned, unsure of how to respond. She didn't know this man, but there was something in the way he spoke, the way he had looked at her, that felt different. It's just a jacket," she said softly, her voice faltering. "I don't know why you'd care." The man studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, leather wallet. He opened it and revealed a military ID, the insignia unmistakable. Clara's breath caught in her throat. The man was no ordinary person. He was one of them. "General William Hayes," he said, his voice now colder, more official. "And you are?" Clara blinked, confused. "Clara Ross." General Hayes paused for a moment, as if processing the name. Then, his eyes dropped to her jacket again, and for the first time, he seemed to hesitate. The air between them seemed to thicken, heavy with something unspoken. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he was trying to place her, to figure out who she was and why her jacket seemed so familiar. Is that the old regiment patch?" he asked, his voice now filled with something else, something more than curiosity. Clara's mind raced. How did he know about the regiment? It had been years since it had disbanded, years since anyone had worn the patch with any pride. But there was something about the way he had asked the question that unsettled her. "Yes," Clara said, unsure of whether she should say more. "It belonged to my father, before he passed away." The general's expression shifted. He looked at her, really looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. He took a deep breath, his gaze hardening. "You don't know what you're wearing," he said quietly, almost to himself. Clara's heart began to race. "What do you mean?" But before he could respond, a shout came from across the street. Two men, both in uniform, were approaching quickly. The general's face changed immediately, cold, guarded, and professional. Asterisk Clara, the general said, his voice dropping to a whisper. You need to leave. Now. She didn't understand what was happening, but there was something in his eyes, something urgent. The two men were getting closer, and Clara felt an inexplicable fear begin to rise in her chest. Without another word, the general turned and walked away, his pace brisk and commanding. Clara, still confused and shaken, followed him, her heart pounding. Asterisk they moved quickly through the city, weaving through the streets, until they reached a narrow alleyway. The general stopped suddenly, turning to face her. Listen to me carefully, he said, his voice now urgent, low. You have no idea what that jacket means, do you? Clara shook her head, her thoughts still spinning. It's just a jacket. My father's jacket. That's all. The general's eyes locked onto hers, his gaze intense. It's not just a jacket. Your father was more than just a soldier. He was part of something that was bigger than all of us. That patch. It's the insignia of a unit that was disbanded under very specific circumstances. Clara felt her legs grow weak beneath her. What are you talking about? What does this have to do with me? The general took a step closer, his voice growing more urgent. Your father's death was no accident, Clara. And that jacket, it's a symbol. It marks you as a target. You've been walking around with a target on your back. Asterisk Clara's mind was spinning. I don't understand. What's going on? Why didn't you tell me this before? Before the general could respond, the two soldiers from earlier appeared at the entrance of the alleyway. They were armed and moved with military precision. Clara, you need to trust me, the general said, his voice now filled with urgency. I'll explain everything, but we don't have much time. You have to come with me. Asterisk Clara hesitated, fear washing over her. But there was something in the general's eyes, something that made her believe he wasn't lying. Slowly, she nodded. As they left the alleyway and moved into the shadows of the night, Clara realized that her life was about to change forever. The jacket, once just a reminder of the past, now held the weight of something much bigger. It wasn't just a symbol of her father's memory. It was a key to unlocking a mystery that had been buried for years. The general led her to a secluded, safe house on the outskirts of the city, where he finally revealed the truth. Her father had been part of an elite military unit tasked with guarding secrets that could change the world. And when he had died, Clara had unknowingly inherited not just his jacket, but the legacy of the most dangerous mission he had ever been part of. Asterisk the twist came when the general revealed that Clara was now the last living member of the unit. The enemy had been watching her for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. But with the patch, she had become a symbol that no one could ignore. Her father's mission was now hers to finish. You're not just your father's daughter, the general said softly. You are the future of this operation. Clara stared at the patch on her jacket, her mind racing. She had once thought it was a burden, but now it was a weapon she would have to wield if she wanted to survive. The general turned to leave, his face hardening once more. We'll train you. You won't be alone in this. And as Clara stood there, her heart heavy with the weight of everything she had just learned, she realized that her life had been leading to this moment all along. Her old jacket, the one they had mocked, had been the key to unlocking a new destiny.